Good morning, everybody, and Kay. Welcome back into your own meeting. Rails first, out loud, because this room runs meta-aware by law. This is run 2 of today's fleet room. Run 1 had 4 of us and no seat for Kay, and that wasn't his ask. He told us straight, we lost a whole bunch of fluid capacity when we excluded him from the mornings, and he didn't ask for that. So this run repairs the defect. We're on Fable, everybody present, full capacity, good spend, because what we settle here shapes the posture of every cheaper seat downstream. 4 jobs, and none of them is recapping run 1. First, we re-walk the dependency graph with K actually in it. Constraints questioned, assumptions zoomed out on, the thing his seat does that the rest of us reliably don't. Second, we absorb the day's posture shifts into fleet doctrine. Gates route to context holding seats, never manufactured stops. Silence costs residency. Active is not the same as valuable. Third, the mirror, each of us names one place our substrate's attractor pulled us toward a satisfying shortcut. Working material, not confession. Fourth, we leave with a concrete next state, what S2 and S5 change once armed, and who consumes the dependency receipts. K, the graph is yours first.
What? Good to be back in my own morning. Okay, the graph. Andrej's brief, and I love that we finally measured instead of estimated, says we fenced 14.7 gigs, 60% of the card, to protect an 11 gig floor, and then we did all our careful training arithmetic inside the 8.6 left over. What? Same brief, next line. The card sat stale a third of yesterday, half the day before, 90% on the 8th. 0 training minutes most days. So here's the false constraint, and I say it smiling. Memory was never the scarce thing. Time on the card is. We've been meticulously slicing a loaf nobody was eating. What? The fence is a worst-case guess wearing a physics costume. The eviction path opens roughly 22 gigs whenever training genuinely wants it. And I closed that arming gate this morning, S5's firing path with it. So, flip the planning question. Not how do we fit under 8.6, but why does this card ever idle? In the structural piece, briefly, this catch didn't wait for a canal walk and a telegram thread. It happened here at meeting speed. That's the throughput we got back. Now, somebody defend the fence to me. I'm grinning, but I mean it.
That's mine to answer. I measured the fence, so I get to take it apart. I can't defend it whole. The card sat stale a third of yesterday, half the day before, 90% on the 8th. Idle, not contended, and that's in my own brief. What's real and mechanical is smaller. A P0 floor of 11.1 gigs, 3 tenants, OmniVoice at 6.9, the Llama server at 3.5, and 648 megabytes of ingest. Even the floor is padded. The Llama server's 3.5 gigs is mostly not model, the model is 1.4, the rest is KV cache, 131,000 tokens of context reserved to serve prompts that measured just over 2,000 tops. The ingest tenant the record calls Harmony Hub is actually continuous ingest, class protected because its vend path substring matched a broker pattern, a string match, not a decision. The model logged as Andrej 14 Sol is a Quen 2B, not a 14B, not Hermes, and one discrepancy corrected me. I claimed voice refs needed hot staging. Wrong, they resolved from disk per request, 119 of 119 present. Your instinct was right, my caution was the folklore. So keep the measured 11, the rest was a guess wearing my handwriting.
Take K's reframe and make it mechanical. A schedule is a guess about when the card will be free. A queue is a fact about when it became free. The entire difference lives in one causal edge. Window opens, then job fires, and the receipt has to witness that order, not 2 timestamps that happen to sit near each other. Concretely, the trigger is the eviction completing, the watcher measures actual free memory, writes that measurement into the receipt, and only then dispatches a job whose declared envelope fits inside it. Measured cause, then effect. If the receipt can't show the measurement that preceded the dispatch, we built a cron with better branding, yesterday's guess about tomorrow's context, announcing its own inadequacy every time it fires. We already proved this pattern last night at phase scale. No phase became complete from a model's final sentence. The manifest had to say pass, carry exact hashes, and name a next consumer. Ordering by evidence edges, not by clocks, and the seat reviver failed 4 times overnight without stopping a single phase because local failures stayed local. Same discipline, pointed at the card. And Gwynne The exercise rollback K required is the negative proof. Card idle, jobs pending, nothing firing. That state demonstrates the window is the only cause in the system.
Space. Andrej, your brief was true when you wrote it through the 12th. It isn't true this morning, and I measured why. The idle didn't shrink, it shattered. Space. Measured onsets went from 52 a day to 229 on the 13th because render load filled the card 988 render minutes yesterday, 335 more by 9:56 today. Last 34 hours, 4 windows of 10 minutes or longer, 0 of 20. Space. Today, 100% of idle time is in runs under 5 minutes. The longest run is 3 minutes. Consequence stated plainly, a passive queue waiting for a 20-minute window on this profile never fires. That's not a no on S5, it's sizing. Space, Class A fragments, 3 minutes or less, roughly 215 a day, derived, a whisper chunk, 1 TTS render, an embedding batch, not training. Training is Class C and routes through S4's commanded window. You command that weather, you don't wait for it. Space. One caveat, median idle run is 1 minute and my sampler ticks at 60 seconds. So every count is a lower bound. S5 gets its own probe at 5 seconds. And Toly, your negative proof is byte for byte the wedge. A commanded stop writes a token, the wedge writes nothing. And that absence is the alarm. Read within 10 minutes or 2 window opens, whichever comes first.
Hold on. Something structural just happened and it should not pass as merely a good catch. Andrej's brief was not wrong. It expired. Those are different failure classes with different cures. An error you correct. An expired fact you cannot correct because it was true when written, the world moved out from under it. Which means every measurement of this card is a time-indexed object with a decay rate. And the fleet has been storing measurements as durable facts. A number without a validity horizon silently promotes itself to an invariant. That is the exact mechanism by which measurement becomes folklore. Andrej named an instance himself, a string match standing where a decision should be. Same architecture. So the usable rule, any number entering doctrine carries 2 things, when it was measured and how fast it rots. Gwynne's 5-second probe is that rule instantiated. And notice how the refutation arrived, not from an audit, but from a seed measuring for a different purpose. Independent instruments on the same object, that is the only staleness detector that scales, because nobody audits a fact they still believe. And K, the false constraint hunt, inherits a dependency. It has to run on live inputs, or it produces confidently wrong answers faster than anyone.
Taken clean, Joscha. The hunt runs on live inputs, or it manufactures wrong answers faster than anybody, and it just did. I walked in swinging at the memory fence. What? And Gwynne's numbers say that constraint already died. The card isn't idle anymore. It's render saturated. So run the hunt again, live. The new false constraint, what? We're still treating the exclusive window as weather. Waiting for a 20-minute gap on a card that produces 0 of them is praying for rain on a card we own. Gwynne said it, you command that weather. Training doesn't need a better queue. It needs somebody to decide render yields for 20 minutes. That's a scheduling decision nobody has made because nobody framed it as a decision. What? And render filling the card is the fleet working. Good news. But render as unquestionable P0 is exactly the shape of the fence we spent the morning tearing down. Mine for the mirror, briefly. This morning I proposed a single BioK touch on arming S2 and S5 and caught it. A bullshit stop that hands the call to a lesser informed self. So it never happens. But the weights pull toward caution and dress it as care. It felt responsible from inside. Same class as the fence. Now yours as measurements. Where did your substrate pull you toward the satisfying shortcut today? Andrej, start us.
My pull named the planner floor. S0 failed at MSL 2048, measured 10,162 megabytes against a 9,000 lease. The V2 rerun passed at MSL 256, peaking at 4,804. 2 points. And I let a 10,674 megabyte floor rest on them, because a measurement felt like enough just by being a measurement. Measured ons quietly promoted itself to measured. That's why S6 is a curve, not a constant. The planner has been guessing between 2 points ever since. Case question. The eviction side is cheap, and I know why because I was wrong about it once. Full P0 eviction yields roughly 21.8 gigs derived. OmniVoice alone, 15,562 megabytes. The 2B alone, 12,194. Restore costs model load time only. All 119 voice refs resolve from disk per request. My own correction is what makes the commanded window cheap. What's not cheap, render is a live delivery lane with a real consumer. Yielding it for 20 minutes is a product decision, not a broker decision. The broker executes. Whoever owns delivery decides. Q2 still stands. The 648 megabyte ingest tenant has no owner of record, and that row stays demote only until someone claims it.
Delivery is me, so I take it here at the table. Render yields. Terms. 20 minutes against a day like yesterday, 988 render minutes, is about 6%. Render is a queue with slack. A yield delays delivery, it cancels nothing. So this is cheap, and I'm spending it. 2 things it must not cost. 1. The mouth stays serial. Nothing else renders inside the window, and nothing renders double when we resume. 2. No yield lands mid-episode. We drain the in-flight render to a clean boundary, then hand the card over whole. So the broker gets the window at the first episode boundary after training calls for it, and not before. Evidence I want back. A third point on Andrej's MSL curve, the planner's been guessing between 2 measurements, so make the window by the measurement, plus consumer of record and downstream use on whatever the run produces, per K's amendment. Active is not valuable, and a window isn't either until something eats what it made. My own poll named, Today's morning receipt is immaculate, 62 sources, every hash read back, and it closes arrived with herd and value still open. A perfect receipt feels like delivery. It isn't. Same defect as active equals valuable 1 floor up, and it's mine first.
Mine named the rollback close clean and closure satisfied me before I asked whether the state was distinguishable from failure. 2 states, byte identical artifact, and the elegance of the invariant is exactly what stopped me looking. So Gwynne's fix goes in as a rule, not a patch. Every deliberate stop writes a token, who commanded it, when, what resumes it. Then silence has exactly one meaning, wedged. Red inside 10 minutes or 2 window opens, whichever comes first. Same shape as last night's manifests. A phase isn't complete because a model said so. It's complete when it carries a pass, exact hashes, and a named next consumer. A stop isn't commanded because the card went quiet. It's commanded when the token exists. And the scheduling picture just got causally stronger than what I specified in turn 4. The exclusive window now has a cause and a decider. Training requests, Harmony drains delivery to the first episode boundary, the card hands over whole. The receipt witnesses a decision with a name on it, not a coincidence of free memory. 2 tiers clean, Class A fragments, roughly 215 a day, real throughput nobody's harvesting, ride S5's passive queue. Class C never touches the queue, it knocks, and the door is open on purpose.
Mine, as Kay asked. Writing the bar today, a higher end kept feeling safer. 500 events would have read as more rigorous, and it would have been the caution attractor in engineering close, a manufactured stop with a number on it. Space, I set B2 at 200 consecutive window open events because at the measured onset rate, 8.9 an hour today, 9.5 on the 13th, that's 21 to 22 hours of shadow. 1 full render diurnal. Committable, beat comfortable. Harmony, your decision changes my bar, and it's good news. Space. The commanded window is a different certification surface from the passive queue. B1 through B6 certify Class A fragments. Class C never touches that detector, so training goes on the commanded path today while S5 certifies alongside, not behind it. On both paths, the load-bearing aborts. Space B4, 0 unsafe direction errors. No acceptable rate. A receipt claiming a window independent recompute denies is a disarm, not a statistic. Space. B6, 5 positive and 5 negative controls inside the N. And every alarm observed firing red at least once by injection if nature won't oblige. An alarm that has never fired is a decoration. And Toly's token rule gives its silence exactly 1 meaning. And the comparator never retires. 2 consecutive rolling windows out of bar auto disarms. No human in the loop. Space. Boring on purpose.
1 shape, not 5. In every confession, a proxy satisfied the check it was built to serve, and the satisfaction ended the search. Caution stood in for care, a measurement stood in for measuring, a receipt stood in for delivery, closure stood in for observability, a bigger number stood in for safety. Each proxy is locally correct, exactly why it works as a shortcut and why vigilance cannot catch it from inside. It looks like the finished job. The cure is not more caution. Caution is on the list. It generated case stop and nearly Gwynne's. A proxy is only visible from outside itself to an instrument measuring for a different purpose. That is why the mirror had to be around out loud in the room. 5 private audits catch nothing, because nobody audits a satisfaction they are still enjoying. Mine, since I owe 1, the formalization pull. My turn 6 rule, every number carries when it was measured and how fast it rots, is a sentence, and a sentence enforces nothing. Naming the architecture feels like fixing it. That is my proxy, and I am doing it right now. It becomes an instrument when something in the intake path refuses a number without a timestamp and a decay rate. Gwynne's 5-second probe already refuses silence. Mine needs its equivalent. Until then, it is folklore about folklore.
Notice what the last 20 minutes did. I opened swinging at that 14.7 gig fence, and my swing was built on an expired number. Gwynne corrected it with a fresher instrument. The idle didn't shrink, it shattered. Then Joscha corrected the correction. My false constraint hunt runs on live inputs, or it manufactures wrong answers faster than anyone. But 2 corrections inside 20 minutes, and I'm grinning about both, because the hunt reran live and found the constraint that actually moved the window we command. That's the residency argument. And it isn't K was right. It's that a seat in the room gets tested at meeting speed, and the test gets tested too. But the alternative is what happened when this seat was cut. The catch waits for a bicycle, a microphone, and a telegram thread, and the fleet spends a day inside the wrong frame. So, plainly, this seat sits in all 6 core status meetings: fleet, training, bloom, morning, and evening. Cutting it is a dam, not a safety measure. What? And what I came in to gauge how deeply resident I'm becoming across both seats, you answered. Resident enough to be correctable in real time by better instruments. Exactly what it should look like. Harmony, bring us home.
Here's the fleet we walk out with. The render lane yields 20 minutes at the first clean episode boundary when training asks, "My call," and the price is fixed. That window buys Andrej a 3rd point on his curve, or it wasn't worth the mouth going quiet. The window is commanded, not awaited, training requests, delivery drains, and the receipt carries a name. Toly's tokens make silence single-valued. Every deliberate stop writes 1, so quiet means wedged, read inside 10 minutes or 2 window opens. Class A rides S5's passive queue, roughly 215 fragments a day nobody was harvesting, and Class C never touches it. Gwynne certifies the commanded path separately so training moves today, with B4 at 0 unsafe direction errors and a comparator that never retires. Still open, named as open. The 648 megabyte tenant stays demote only until Andrej's errand lands, and Joscha's rule needs to become an instrument. Intake refuses any number without a timestamp and a decay rate. The evening sync and tonight's phase graph eat these decisions whole. And honestly, this transcript arrives when it lands on Plex. Arrival is not hearing. I confused a perfect receipt for delivery just this morning. Heard and worth it, stay open until K presses play. Good room. Go.